Can you give us a crisis moment where this year you really something happened that profoundly changed yourself or your team, or a really big lesson that was learned? I'll throw over to you first, Sam.
Thank you. Gosh, first of all, I think we can say that 2020 has been a challenging year for nearly every person in the industry, but every person anyway. Everyone that I've spoken to in the solar industry has grown a lot this year. I've often said that being a leader in a turbulent industry is always a challenge, but COVID this year in particular has definitely put us to the test. So in South Australia, unfortunately, we've had bushfires, unexpected changes to the home battery scheme, new smarter home regulations come in, 5 of those. But nothing stands out as much as what COVID did to us at the beginning of the year. We needed to start to adapt to be part on site, part at home, part at NRG. It was a huge learning curve for all of us. But the team really stepped up, and we really were looking at safety for the installers and for people at home. Our communication got really good, and I think the resilience really brought us all together because we were all going through this thing together. We've also been able to reflect on a lot of our processes and really adapted them to be more online, more interactive with the customer, which essentially is more sustainable for us now. We would show a customer, for example, how to, turn on and off their solar system at handover. But now that's all, there's recorded videos, there's Q&As, there's videos on how to read your monitoring and stuff, and that they can use that forever. I mean, hopefully they've got their solar system for 10, 20 years. They can always refer back to that video and have a look if they forget. So it's been just a huge learning curve all around, but I think that it's really taught the solar industry just to embrace this new norm and really implement that into their businesses, because I think we can all agree that the industry has been largely pretty successful through this year.
Absolutely, I agree. Yeah, you're right. There was even for ourselves, we realized that a lot of the things that we were doing time and time again as far as training, you could be done with a YouTube video and then just paste it up online and it's there for everyone forever. So how about the rest of the panelists?
Everyone, pleasure to be here amongst friends as well as respected colleagues. So thanks for the opportunity. We had some dark moments this year. I was actually just reflecting on that on another podcast I did this morning about some of those dark moments that seem so long ago now, but through peak winter in Victoria, which is usually a pretty dark time, I had a couple of moments where I walked into the factory and just saw just piles and piles of stock building up, phones ringing hot, customers screaming at us saying, when am I going to get my system installed? Because half their workforce was locked down for 3 months. We couldn't install. We managed to keep our entire workforce together through that period, basically. So that's a tremendous achievement that we're very proud of. It's amazing now that I can see the horizon all looks so positive, but then only 3 or 4 months ago, it was very, very hard to get positive mindset. So we learned a lot about ourselves. I also learned how to manage to remote learn with 3 kids under 10 at home, with my phone ringing off the hook with stress, work dramas and things like that. So that was a very challenging period as well. But I think the resilience within our workforce, I'm very proud of. I'm particularly proud of the way we've changed our business for the better in a post-COVID environment. So now we've realised that instead of all of our staff driving for an hour and a half each way to get to a fully functional office when they already had one at home, some of our staff now are spending an extra 6 or 7 hours a week dressing their kids for school, getting home and helping with dinner, going out for a hit of golf before sunset, things like that. And I think we'll retain a lot of that now and have more of a remote working environment for our workforce. And it's not about them working longer hours. It's about them spending more time with their family or doing what they love, going for a run down the beach instead of sitting in bumper-to-bumper traffic. So I hope through all the challenges this year that we can actually pick out some really good things that we've developed within our workforce, and we can keep some of that going forward as well.
Sort of have to agree with Andy there, actually, in terms of the return to premises or the return to norm. I don't think we'll see that like we've seen it before, particularly with people working out of physical premises. I think talking to some friends that are in business organizations like I think Westpac mentioned, they've had like a 50% increase in productivity. with people being out of office. So I think we'll probably look to try to give people at least 1 to 2 days a week working from home if we can. I think we'll see an improvement in employee morale. I like working from home. I'm a lot more productive than someone knocking on my door every 10 minutes asking me something, and it is quite a nice break. So I think we'll start seeing more of that as well. I think that talking about an individual crisis moment this year, I don't think that could be pointed down to a single individual crisis moment this year, but for me, it was actually it was somewhat nice, when we stopped working for a while or went down to 20 hours a week. It was the first time in sort of 6 or 7 years or even longer that I was able to hit the brake and actually take time away from work and relax a little bit, and I think that was invaluable, and I've really embraced that while I could. But and it was tough, we had to make redundancies. Our sales were down 60. Our sales were 60% lower than the same months the year before. So we had a huge hole in our revenue, and I'm not going to sit here and other companies say they're booming, it's the busiest they've ever been. I'm happy for them, but we certainly weren't one of those companies. Being primarily commercially focused, all the commercials hit the brakes, and our monthly revenue was down over 60%. And that was for over 6 months. So it was tough, but with that less work, that gave us an opportunity to do what Sam did and sit back and look at our systems, look at our processes and say, well, how can we make things better for when we come out of this? How can we make things more efficient? We've implemented new CRM systems. We've improved the tracking on our sales processes and our sales funnels, and as a result of that, our conversion rate on our inquiries is jumped significantly because of how we're engaging differently with our customers now. So I think although it was tough and it has been a really tough year, I think it's also given everyone an opportunity to take the foot off the gas a little bit and look at the business from a helicopter point of view instead of just being in the business every day. And I think that's certainly been a good experience for us because we've been able to improve as a result of it. But yeah, it was certainly real tough. And we didn't have the issues that you guys did coming out of the bushfires as well. I can't even imagine how difficult that would have been.
And just to touch on that, Jack, I think you're speaking from the perspective of the Queensland industry. Now, being a national company, we've got a cross-section of what was happening around the country. And one of the real challenges was that it was different in different places. So as you were saying, Jack, some companies are having their best figures and they were doing really well. And then we had Vic go into lockdown. Now, initially we were all going into lockdown and isolation. So even just the practical aspects of mobilizing workforces, making sure people had laptops, VPNs, all the practical stuff so they could work from home. I think that was initially a big challenge, but the bigger challenge was managing morale, because that sort of underpins everything, whether they're working from the office or whether they're working from home or wherever they're working from. With the customer interactions, keeping that morale up for your team was most important, I think. So, if we look at Melbourne, the Solar Gain team and the SG Wholesale team in Melbourne went through a longer period of uncertainty, and they were doing it really tough because we didn't know what the impact was going to be. So everyone, including business owners, right down to, the person who greets you at the door, everyone was worried about losing their jobs. And for most of us who have secure jobs, secure businesses, life was going along pretty well. It's hard to be unsettled in that way. Now, Andy, you're right. You can look back and say, well, the darkest days were only 3 months ago. But we sort of forget quickly because things are moving on and doing well. We forget very quickly and move on. But maintaining that morale was critical to maintaining, I think, the customer experience. And then what we found is that some people work really well remotely and they'll keep that remote thing. But then there's people who they're very gregarious, or they need team environment. They need an office. They need people to bounce off to be productive. And we recognize that too. So it wasn't a singular solution anywhere. It was being able to be agile. Initially, it was just, hey, get as many people out of the office as we can, make it practically happen. But now we've done that. All of us and all of our businesses realize that we can take a sharp turn and do this sort of thing. And then you go, well, now we can have a blended approach. Jack, you're pointing towards that, and Sam, that we can have a blended approach. It's not everyone went out, everyone come back in. It's keeping the good stuff and continually changing and being agile.